I haven't started yet. I'm just refreshing my slides. Welcome to the 2026 GNOME Foundation Annual General Meeting. My name's Alan Day. I'm the current president of the GNOME Foundation. Thank you all for coming. It's great to see everyone here. This is a really important event for us each year when we get together with our members and the rest of the community to talk about what we've been doing over the past year. It's an opportunity for you to be informed about what's happening with the foundation and to ask questions and for us to think about the future as a community. We're going to be doing this meeting a little bit differently from how it's been in recent years, although some of you who've been around longer might recognize that we're maybe taking some hints from the past as to how this meeting used to be done quite a long time ago. So we're going to have a few different sections. In the first half of the meeting, we're going to be running through some of our programs. So that's non-profit speak for the work that gets done that kind of impacts people in positive ways. So that's the kind of outward-facing kind of deliverables that we've been doing. And for that part of the meeting, we want to kind of bring in different people who have been contributing to the foundation, because the foundation isn't just the executive committee or the president or the board. There's lots of people doing work as part of the foundation, and we want to give those people an opportunity to present their work and to recognize their contributions. So that part is an opportunity to celebrate our achievements and to recognize the work that everyone's been doing. And as part of that section of the presentation, we're also going to give thanks to some of our supporters, the people who allow the foundation to exist and to do the work that it does. And we're also going to give the annual Pants Award, which people who've been around in GNOME will be familiar with this, but every year we select one. We're actually doing two people this year for their contributions to the project, and that's a way of celebrating special contributors who've made a particularly significant contribution to the project. So we'll be doing that just before the coffee break. And then when we come back, we'll go into the kind of serious part of the meeting. I've called this the business report. The GNOME Foundation is a business, and it has, all the characteristics of a business. And one of the purposes of this meeting is to give you all a report on the state of the business and how it's performing. So we'll do the more kind of serious part after the break, and we can also ask questions, and the board will be here to answer them then. If you do want to ask a question, the form is still open. We did previously say we'd be closing it, but we've decided to keep it open for a bit longer. So if you have any questions during the presentations, this is the link. We're doing the form this year so that people online can also ask questions. So if anyone is watching remotely, you can use this link as well. And we'll be going through the answers in real time at the end of the session. Before we launch into the main content of this presentation, I want to talk a little bit about why we're here. I think it's useful for us to understand the nature of this meeting and why it exists. The GNOME Foundation is a corporation. It's a non-profit, members-based corporation registered in the state of California. And a lot of the ways that the foundation operates is due to that status, right? The fact that we have a board and we have a president and sometimes we have executive directors, and the reason we do annual reports and all of these things, this isn't just because we choose to do them, it's because we're legally required to have those things in order to exist. It's part of our legal structure. And that is the same for this annual general meeting. We are required by California law to provide our members, because we're a members-based organization, to meet with our members once a year and to keep you informed about what is happening with the business. And so that is why we're here today. And I'd just like to ask, before we go any further, Who here is a GNOME Foundation member? Can you just raise your hands? Great. And can someone from the board just count the hands? Because we are supposed to keep a record of the number of members that were in the meeting. Okay, great. Well, I mean, welcome to you in particular. I mean, this is your meeting. Everyone is also welcome to participate, but this is the meeting for our members. And the way I tend to think about this is that it's very similar to a shareholders meeting, right? Like a publicly traded corporation has shareholders, and as a part of that, they're required to have an annual general meeting of shareholders, which is where people who have invested in the organization go to hear about how their investment is being managed, essentially. They want to hear they want to know that their investment is being effectively managed. And one of the ways they find out about that is through the members' meeting. You are our shareholders. The reason that you are a member of the GNOME Foundation is that you have made an investment. It's not an investment in terms of money, it's an investment of time and energy. And the fact that you are members reflects that you have put something into this organization. And the reason that the GNOME Foundation exists is to manage that investment that you have all made. At a very basic level, the GNOME Foundation manages the assets that have been generated by the membership. We manage the brand, we manage the relationships, we manage the money that comes into the project as a result of the work that you have all done. So particularly when we get onto the business report of this presentation, I would encourage you to think of yourselves kind of as shareholders, right? And think about the kind of return that you're getting on your investment and whether you think that your investment is being effectively managed, both in terms of the revenue that we're generating and the way we're spending it. And that is really what this meeting is about, and is why we're required to have it, to keep you informed. So, ask us questions, challenge us about the business. That is why we're here. But I would also say, within that, remember that those of us on the board are also members, and we're also volunteers like you, and we're doing the best that we can. So I would invite you to be kind of critical friends, right? Like ask the searching questions, but do it in a way that is supportive and recognizes the fact that we're here as volunteers often as well, and often working within our own limitations. All right, so that was my little soapbox. I will get off now, and I'm going to hand over. These are the programs that we're going to be reviewing today, and we're going to have different speakers come up and describe what has happened over the past 12 months in each of these areas. These are all areas where we are active and doing important work. In some cases, we don't have speakers here to represent these areas, so we're going to have some kind of proxy presenters, but hopefully it'll be interesting to you and will be an opportunity to celebrate the work that's been done over the past 12 months. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Maria.
Hello, everyone. I'm here representing the travel committee, who members are Asmit, Anissa, Julian, myself, and Nirvek. Unfortunately, Nirvek has not been able to join us. So, but thank you everyone in the team that with all the work that we have been doing the past few months towards our conferences. This year, we have, in the fiscal year, so that means from October to now, we have sponsored 11 people for GNOME Asia, 2 for LAS, and for GUADEC 17. So that makes a total of 30 people. These are the approved sponsorships. Unfortunately, not everyone were able to make it for various reasons, but I think that the most common are the visas. I would like to mention that please, when you require a visa, make your request as soon as possible and keep in mind the time that you will require. With this in mind, we have spent about the 58% of the budget from this year. So we have quite a few of the budget, quite a big chunk of the budget left. We will like to encourage all of you to organize Hackfests. We reserve a part of our budget for this year for Hackfest. We have sent reminders. Please, this is a reminder that every time that you would like to organize a Hackfest that is regarding GNOME, or you are representing GNOME in a Hackfest not in our community, you can request a sponsorship to travel. But also I would like to point out that if you go to a conference not related to GNOME, representing GNOME, you can also request budget. So yeah, more Hackfest, please. And also for last, a reminder, we only had to request, we also reserve a part of our budget for that, but we only had to request. That's also GNOME Community Conference. We share with KDE, but you can also request to attend that one. And I pass the microphone to Christy.
Hello, everyone. So for the conferences, last year we had GUADEC. I see many, many faces that were both in Italy and also here. It was organized in Brescia. It was one of the highest number of attendees that we've ever had. It was like approximately 150 something attendees, which is like a very, very good number. And beside that, we had like a very big variety of many speakers that were also local, but also coming from outside of Italy. I would say, and I'm happy to share that it was one of also the most successful GUADECs regarding the sponsorships that we've collected. So I would say overall it was a very, very nice event. And by the end of last year, which is like December something, we organized GNOME Asia in Tokyo, Japan. It was one of the very first GNOME Asias that we've co-organized with LibreOffice. We had around approximately 80 people joining. 70% or like 80% of all the attendees were actually locals. And the other part were people traveling from outside of Japan, coming in our conference. It was like a two-day event. I would say it was a very, very nice experience, something that we don't usually have in our conferences. Going in that other part of the world, you definitely see another way of doing things and another way of how things are run, which is very refreshing to all the people to see how many see things in very different views. And by the mid of May, we had the Linux Hub Summit 2026. It was organized in Berlin, Germany. Again, very, very good one. I would say we had approximately 100 people joining. Also regarding the sponsorships, we're getting back on track with that for this conference. So we're super happy to go back to that state currently. Just like a very quick update, which is not like super officially confirmed for 2027, Linux Hub Summit might happen again in Berlin. I will definitely update you all again. You'll see my my name again. And for GNOME Asia, if you guys wanna, plan travel and so on, there is a big chance that we'll organize it in Malaysia this year, in a city not very far from Kuala Lumpur. So this might help you to organize your travel if you really wanna join us. So yeah, this is like the summary, let's say, of the events for last year. If you have any questions, or if you want to host any of the events that I've mentioned in your cities, especially GUADEC, since we're in Europe, please ping me. We are looking for locations for GUADEC 2027. We have a great team that works, that's the international team that works with us, and you'll definitely have our support if you, for whatever you'll need. So please, I really encourage you to have us in your city. We are a very fun group, so we'll be super happy to come and join. And I want to really, really thank, by the way, since we're at the conferences, a big thanks to the local team here in the GUADEC, and a big thanks to all the organizers that are working for our events. Thank you so much. And the next speaker is Alan.
I am probably the worst person to give this presentation, so I apologize, particularly to Andrea and Bart, but I think it's going to be okay. Andrea has pre-recorded as a state of infra presentation, which will be streamed later, and is going to do a much better job of presenting this content than I will, so I'm just going to kind of keep this very high level. Our infra is amazing. I don't think, I think it's so good, and we often take it for granted, but I think the quality of our infra is just extraordinary, and it's one of the huge strengths of the GNOME project. I think there are many kind of commercial outfits with far bigger budgets than us that have far worse infrastructure, like in terms of the money that we put into it, and now the scale of our resources, it's quite extraordinary, both in terms of the capabilities that we have, but also the quality and the performance and everything that we get out of that infrastructure and the uptime. It's really incredible. And thanks have to go to Bart and Andrea, who do all of this work for us. Bob, yeah. They're a small team. They're often under a lot of pressure. I think it really helps to say thanks. So, next time you're interacting with them, please show your appreciation. I know that it means a lot. They both go beyond a long way beyond what we could, reasonably expect of them. They go the extra mile for us time and time again. So I think we can be very grateful for everything they do. Technical details that I'm not qualified to talk about. There has been a lot of important, valuable work done over the past 12 months. Andrea goes into that in more detail in his presentation that's going to be streamed later. I think the kind of big story here is around performance, around security, and maturing the setup we have. We have a very strong setup after a lot of kind of work over the past few years to re-architect parts of our infrastructure, and it's really now a case of building on that previous work just to optimize the setup that we have, and there's been some important developments there that you can learn about later. Since we're talking about infrastructure, it's important to mention our key sponsors. These organizations allow our infrastructure to exist. They contribute a vast quantity of donated resources that we use. It's a very high figure that these firms provide to us. And I think it's important for us to recognize their contributions to the project, because we would not be able to have the infrastructure that we have without these partners. So I'd like to have a round of applause for AWS, Fastly, and CDN 77. And they're not the only ones. There are many other organizations that are supporting our infrastructure, whether it's with services, with physical machines, with data center access, and with time of employees. So I'd like to thank all of these organizations as well. All right, Cassidy, you're next. FlatHub.
Hello, I am Cassidy. I do not work directly on FlatHub, but unfortunately Bart couldn't be here to present in person. But first of all, how many in the room use FlatHub on a regular basis? If you want to raise your hand. Yeah, that's what I like to see. So that was, for the people online, if you can't see, it was basically everybody in the room. So yeah, FlatHub is an incredibly important part of our ecosystem, and it's something that we help run from the foundation. Over the last couple of years, we've been doing a lot of work on FlatHub thanks to a grant from the Endless Foundation, and this has been providing resources for sysadmin, part-time sysadmin for FlatHub, which is Bart, that I hope everybody knows. If you don't, say hi to Bart on Matrix, and also has helped, Rob McQueen has helped with a lot of the legal bootstrapping part of setting up FlatHub as an organization. Some technical highlights over the past is probably a year or so is, I'm not going to try to butcher a German word, I don't think, but there's a new CI service that has really improved the builds of FlatHub apps. The builds have actually been moved to AWS now with caching, so things are faster and more reliable. There's been a lot of modernization. The sort of overall theme is like a lot of modernization and fixing all the broken things, which, if you know, that's a very important part of running a service, especially one that is used by literally everybody in the room here and most GNOME users as well. There's been a lot of website improvements and download performance improvements. So if you are in a region where you used to have really slow downloads, hopefully that's fixed for you. And we've also started doing tracking the reproducibility of builds, which is really important for having reproducible builds, knowing things are actually being built the correct way. A little bit of a look at what's coming hopefully soon in the future. There's work on single sign-on for the website, allowing you to log in using a FlatHub account to other apps or services. I think this is for things like logging into an app store with your FlatHub account. There's planning for a migration of the Git forge off of GitHub. There's work. There's plans for an app submission website. So instead of having to do it all through like JSON files on a GitHub UI and look at diffs and things, actually being able to do that on a website, which would be really nice for the developer experience. Partial OS tree to OCI registry migration. I don't actually know a whole lot about that, but you can ask Bart if you want to know more about that. And continuing to improve the reproducibility of builds for apps. And there's planning underway to establish FlatHub as a legal entity in Europe. As of right now, FlatHub has been operating under the GNOME Foundation. So this is something to look forward to in the future. And I think that's it for FlatHub.
Kind of tag teaming this. I hope it's keeping you engaged. All right, Digital Wellbeing is another program that we've been operating at the GNOME Foundation for the past couple of years. Some of you might be familiar with this work already. Some of you may not. This work was, again, funded from a grant from Endless Foundation, which we received in 2023, sorry. It was a 2-year grant, which we wrapped up in December last year. We're really thrilled with how this program went overall. We delivered all the work that we promised on time, on budget, Within the 2 years, we had a great team working on this with Philip, Ignacy, and Sam, and we delivered a lot of great work. Over the 2 years, there was digital well-being features that were introduced for users, which you can use to manage your own use of the system. We completely revamped the parental controls app in GNOME. We implemented screen time controls for parents. So, a parent or a carer can set like a bedtime and how much device time someone that they're caring for can use. And we implemented an initial backend for web filtering, which is like a system-level deny list for domains. And we're quite excited about the potential for that for the future. There's a lot of applications beyond parental controls, although it is a critical feature to have there to prevent children from going on certain websites. But it has other applications as well, whether it might be ad blocking at a system level or well-being features for other sets of users, like maybe you might want to deny list gambling websites or something of that nature. There's a lot of kind of interesting possibilities there. And we're hoping to be continuing this work in the future with more support. So this was a really great success story for us in terms of receiving and delivering a successful technical project. This is a beautiful interface, I promise. You just can't see it. This is the new parental controls app, which shows you a chart of screen usage and has controls for how much screen time is allowed. And this is what it looks like on the shell side, where a lot of this work also landed. So, the device will lock if when the screen limit is reached. And then you need to get a supervisor account to come in and unlock it for you, which parents like myself will be very familiar with this dynamic. All right, Cassidy's back up. Cassidy.
It really is a tag team here. It's me again. Apparently my last name is on this slide, but not the other one, so that's fun. I'm going to talk a little bit about the GNOME Fellowship. So we have launched GNOME Fellowships. It's a program to have the foundation directly support our community members. We held a 4-week application period. We received 28 applications during that time. And from that pool, we selected 2 part-time fellows to receive support. And congratulations to both Sophie and Peter. And fellowships have begun as of the beginning of this month. You can expect progress updates on planet.gnome.org. And the positions are both it's 12 and 18-month contracts for the fellowships. And that was it. That's all the slides that I have for that. But yeah, make sure to say thank you to Sophie and Peter on Matrix and in person as well.
All right, I've included fiscal sponsorship in the list of programs here, which isn't something that we talk about very much when we do give these kind of presentations, which I think is a little bit of an omission. Our fiscal sponsorship program is a big part of the work that the foundation does. It's something that everyone should be aware of. It's something that we're involved in the background. We provide fiscal sponsorship for 3 separate projects currently. That's GIMP, Black Python Devs, and a small project called Open Sustain Tech, which is doing some interesting work around climate using open source. So we provide these projects with financial and legal support, and we have a strong relationship with them, and we work very closely with them. And they're a big part of what we do, and we're very happy to support their work. This is part of the kind of background stuff that's always going on at the foundation that people maybe aren't so aware of. And it's something that we've been working hard on in the background over the past 12 months. We've had some kind of significant developments there, particularly like the The GIMP projects did their own developer grants recently, and they're gearing up for another round of those, kind of similar to our fellowship program, and we have them with that, for example. Black Python devs are busy supporting a lot of events and doing diversity work in the Python community, and that's a very international effort, so we're kind of supporting people all over the world with that, with particularly events and travel sponsorship, and particularly payments going to Africa, which can be a challenge sometimes, but we do our best. We have people here who can tell you a bit about that. So yeah, that's an important part of what we do. All right, so that was programs. That was a brief overview of some of the highlights of the work that we've been doing over the past 12 months, particularly the work that impacts people and makes a difference out in the world. In this next section, I want to take the opportunity to thank those individuals and those organizations that allow us to do this work. We only get to do the work that we do thanks to the support that we receive from others. And so I think it's important for us to recognize that. The first thank you that I want to give is to our friends. We have a fantastic community of individual donors who subscribe to chip in just a small amount each a month through our donations program. These are our friends of GNOME. And we've seen the number of friends increase significantly over the past year, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when we come to the finances. But these people are making a very significant difference to the GNOME Foundation, particularly with the fellowship. That was a new significant program that we started this year, which would not have been possible without the people who have signed up and who are giving a small amount each month. So this is hugely important, and I think we can be very grateful that there's so many people out there in the world who are supporting the work that we do, even if it's just in a small way individually. Those donations really add up, and we'll be going into that later. The second major thank you I need to give is to our advisory board. So I'd like to have a round of applause for them. The advisory board is like our rock. They've been with us for a long time, and they are our supporters and our partners. And we really rely on our advisory board, both financially and for the support that they provide us in terms of the discussions that we have with them and the other kinds of support that they provide. We have both paying and non-paying advisory board members. So Canonical, Google, Red Hat, and SUSE are supporting us financially through their fees. But we also have non-profits, donors, and members and organizations that provide financial support in other ways. That includes Debian, Postmarket OS, Document Foundation, and Endless. This group is really important to us. We meet with them twice a year. We try and have conversations more frequently than that as well. They're a really important part of the support that we receive. So thank you to the advisory board. I'd also like to give a special thanks to Endless Foundation. Endless Foundation has been the source of regular grants to the GNOME Foundation over the years. We've heard about some of the grant funding that we've received to deliver specific programs, particularly digital well-being and FlatHub. And they've also been supporting many of our outreachy interns as well. But they have also been the source of regular general financial contributions to the GNOME Foundation over the years to quite a significant degree, and they're one of our biggest financial backers and have been for a number of years, and have really come through for us. They're big supporters, and I'm deeply appreciative of their support. They are they support GNOME. They love what we do. They love the Linux desktop. They want to see that succeed. They're enthusiasts like us, and there might not be people that the people in this room are familiar with, but they are big supporters for us, and we wouldn't be able to be doing the work that we do without them. So I'd like a round of applause for Endless Foundation. Thank you very much. Right, it's time for the pants.
I think that most of us are familiar with the Pants of Dance. Is our annual hour, which started really long time ago, and some of you might remember still what the origin was, when it was someone sending someone a pants as a thanks for the work. This year we have modified a little bit because we wanted to diversify this hour. So we have decided to do the pants of thanks to those long-time contributors, but also we wanted to include the short of thanks, which was originally an idea from Felipe, and that is going to be for the newcomers. And I hope that this one sticks through the years, because I think we miss the point of appreciate our newcomers who try to get into a very tight-knit community. And there is some of them that do an excellent work. So let's start with a short of thanks. Is active in GNOME OS and related modules. Has become a kernel hacker since starting contributed to GNOME. Helps to ensure that others' work is included in Tweak. Any guesses? No? No? Congratulations to Ada Magicat for the short of thanks. We will try to make her, get to her some shorts on some kind of appreciation gift. We need to still figure out because it's not present, unfortunately. So now the parts of thanks. A dedicated reviewer and mentor. I think this is very telling. Was sorely missed during a recent absence due to world events. Has been described as the jewel of the GNOME extensions community. Congratulations to Javad, just presentation. Again, unfortunately, he is not here, so we will try to figure out something, some gift to make try to them. Sorry, which I hope everyone will participate. I think I will not have any problems with this kind of participation, either for the short of funds, sorry, but funds. And that's it. We go to the coffee break, right? Yeah.
We're on to part 2, 3. I've forgotten the number, but we're definitely on to the next part. And it's the business reports, which is the serious part of the meeting where we talk about serious things. It's part 3. So more seriously, we're going to talk. I'm going to give a report as president where I'm going to cover the general state of the organization, what we've been doing around our core functions, our accounting, and all that kind of thing. We're going to have a finance report, so we'll give you an update on where the foundation is at financially. And then Maria, as chair, is going to give a governance report just to kind of let everyone know what's happening with the board and the membership and that kind of thing. Also, a reminder, we still have the questions open, I think, and the link is... We've only got 5, so if you think of anything during this presentation, use the form. The link is in the matrix chats, and we'll be answering questions at the end. All right, okay. This is the part where I can ad-lib and try and give a bit of an overview of where I think we're at as an organization. You know, I don't think it's any secret that the foundation has had some difficult times over the recent years. We've had a lot of instability around our leadership, and we've had some significant operational challenges and financial challenges. I think over the past year, we've made some incredible progress, actually, and have come back pretty strong after all of that. I became president in August when I took over from Rob, and you know, the same just after Stephen, our previous executive director, left the organization. And since then, I think we've had a lot of successes. We've done a lot of work around our finances, and I'll get onto that. We've had a lot of positive movement there. We successfully got through our first audit. We successfully delivered programs like digital well-being. We rolled out the new fellowship program, and we've rebooted many of our committees and community-led efforts, particularly the travel committee, which had really kind of declined over the years, and we did a very successful reboot of that. So I think we as an organization have got a lot to be proud of, and we're in a pretty strong position now compared to where we were roughly a year ago. There are still significant challenges ahead of us, particularly around the finances and ensuring that we can be sustainable in the long term. And I'll go into that in more detail when we get to the finance part of the report. And we've got serious challenges around our internal management capacity and our leadership. We've had a small number of people from the board who've stepped up to really help us through this time, but it's hard and we don't have enough capacity, and I don't think that's sustainable. So we need to figure that out, and I don't think we have all the answers to that yet, and that's something that the board is going to need to be working on. But we do have some positive movement in that direction. We're currently hiring for a finance and operations director, and that is actively ongoing. We interviewed for that post last week. And the idea behind that post, which is it's a part-time contract, but the idea for that is to have someone in the organization who can take ownership of the business functions and make sure that that all runs very smoothly. And we're bringing in someone who has a lot of expertise at doing that to make sure that that part of the work is taken off the board's shoulders and is resilient and reliable. So that's going to be important for us, but there's still some unanswered questions as to some of the other management functions and how we're going to fill that in. And I would say that some of the difficulties we've had in our community over the past few years, I would say have not been helping with that, and people are getting burnt out, myself included. So there are definitely some challenges there. All right, so that's my brief rambling summary. I hope that made sense. I'll go into some more detail, and hopefully the picture will become a bit clearer. And I'm going to start by talking about internal development, which is the thing I've been most involved in over the past 12 months, and have been kind of geeking out on a bit, so apologies if I go into this in more detail than people maybe would like, but I think it's important, and I'm quite proud of what we've achieved over the past year. So we had at the beginning of the year, we had a number of goals that we were setting for ourselves. We wanted to increase the efficiency of the organization. We wanted to be spending less time on routine manual work and more time delivering programs and doing good out in the community. We also wanted more financial efficiency, just improving the financial state of the organization. And we had a big push around compliance, particularly in the run-up to our first audit, which I'll talk about. And we have been pushing for some time around transparency and planning capacity, particularly around our budgeting. It's really important for us as an organization to know how we're spending our money, and having the ability to set priorities and strategic goals and deliver on them. And that requires some tooling and some process that hasn't always been there historically. So we needed to build that up in order to be able to deliver meaningful change. And so all of these all the internal work that we've been doing over the past year has been in an effort to deliver on these things, to allow us to deliver more efficiently. So internally, all our systems are new now. We've replaced most things over the past 12 months. We've got a new digital phone service. We've got a new virtual mailbox. So if people send us mail, it goes to a modern service now. Don't send us mail. We don't actually like to receive very much mail. We receive far too much mail. we often receive very strange things in the mail, like the West Virginia Agriculture Department are very interested in the GNOME Foundation. I'm not sure why. We have, for the generic email, contact points for the foundation, like the accounting email and the info email. Those were just forwarding addresses. Now they're kind of shared mailboxes that can be managed by the team. And we're actually this week setting up a help desk tool for that, so that we can manage those more effectively and try and make sure that inquiries get responded to. We've done just a lot of work around making sure that emails are going to the right place and documenting everything. And, I think that all that work is paying off now. It's just much more efficient, and we're building the capacity to share some of those functions across a wider team rather than having one person having to do everything. So that is good. The bigger part of the work that we've been doing has been around the finances, and this was particularly in the run-up to our audits, which the field work happened for in March. And we've been working with an external contractor called consultant, I should say, Dawn Matlack, who I've been working with very closely over the past year and who has been excellent. And we've redone a lot of the way the foundation's financial platforms and processes are working. So we've consolidated a lot of those. We had quite a lot of platforms in the past, and we've managed to boil that down. We set up a new platform that was able to replace a lot of the others that we had. And that brought in a lot of automation as well. So we're just doing less work. There are a lot of tasks that had to be done manually previously, like entering data, moving PDFs around, all of that kind of stuff. And that all just works now. It's just, we don't have to do any of that. And that means that we can spend less money on those functions and use those funds elsewhere. We have forms for a lot of things now, like forms.gnome.org is a thing. It's available to foundation members as well, but we're using this for a lot of our requests and so on. So if you want to request a reimbursement or an invoice or something like that, there's a form for that, and it all just works. The other thing that we've done over the past year is we've done a lot of work around our investments. So the GNOME Foundation has money in the bank, and we want to make sure that we're getting a good return on those funds. And we've done quite a bit of work on that over the past 12 months. We've set up a couple of new bank accounts. We've retired an old bank account. We've been moving funds around. And we're actively managing that a lot more effectively than we have in the past. So we're increasing the rate of return that we're getting just on the funds that we have in our bank, which is, contributing to the financial health of the organization. So that's good. We've moved to a monthly reporting cycle. We used to have a quarterly reporting cycle. And the result of that was that, well, say it takes a month to generate the report and it's generated on a quarterly basis, that could mean that the board is getting financial reports that are 4 or 5 months after the event. So we didn't have very up-to-date financials for the finance committee, the treasurer, the board. We've now switched to a monthly reporting cycle, which is a lot faster. So at each monthly board meeting, the board gets a finance report on the previous month's performance. So we're much closer to real-time monitoring of what's happening and able to make adjustments, which is obviously just a lot better for the financial health of the organization and managing the budget and so on. So that's been absolutely huge and has actually reduced the workload as well, because if you do things on a quarterly basis, they back up and you're trying to fill in gaps in your data from 3 months ago and you can't really remember what was going on back then. So it's just better. And then we've also improved the budgeting. And this was something that Deepa, our treasurer, worked on a lot for the last budget, which was the best budgeting cycle we've ever had. And we've continued with that for the current budgeting cycle we're in, where we started many months out, and we've been able to have a much more effective planning process around the finances in the run-up to the next financial year. So that's been very positive as well. As I mentioned, we had our first audit this calendar year, that happened. The audit was concerned with our previous financial year, so that's the year from October 2024 to September 2025. And the reason that we had that audit was because in that financial year, we received more than $2 million in revenue. Don't get too excited, it's not GNOME's money. It's money that actually belongs to one of our fiscally sponsored projects, which received a very large donation, which we handled for them. And that was good for us because we were able to, we charge for that service and we get some income from that. But the cost was that we had to go through the audit. So we had our first formal audit this year. It was a very intensive process. We have a very dedicated finance and accounting team in the background that most people here won't be aware of. They really pulled out all the stops for us. They were meeting with the auditors 3 times a day for a week, and the auditors were asking for hundreds of documents from us in very short space of time. And all of that went very smoothly. Like, we were complimented on our responsiveness and the way that we conducted ourselves during that process. And the results was that the auditors reported back that there were no serious issues that they found. The main thing that they were looking at is the state of the accounts, right? They want to see that we're tracking the money correctly and that everything adds up and we're following the correct procedures for that. And they were happy with everything. They just proposed one adjustment, which we made, and that went well. So that's really good for us. I think it was actually a great opportunity. Like, people are often very scared about audits and they quite sound like very risky, but often the auditors are there to advise and to help organizations improve. And it was a very useful exercise. We were able to ask questions, get advice, and we did a lot of positive work in the preparation for that audit, which I think has kind of positive benefits outside of that exercise. I do want to thank Dawn here. People here don't know Dawn, but I work very closely with Dawn. Dawn has really helped to drive many of the internal improvements that we've made at the GNOME Foundation over the past 12 months. She's still working with us. She's super helpful. She really likes working with us. We really like working with her. So we're very lucky to have Dawn on the team. It's like, it's another example of someone that the community doesn't know so well, but who is an important part of the organization. We've done a lot of policy work over the past 12 months. All of these policies are either new or were completely rewritten, and they were approved recently by the board. We have this giant policy manual now, which sets out how all the financial and accounting processes and procedures inside the organization are required to work. This is a standard thing that organizations of our type are expected to have, and it's something that we're doing for the audit. I think in total it's about 10,000 words of policy that we wrote over the past 12 months. And, some of this stuff is potentially not all that consequential and is more kind of compliance related, but some of it is very significant and good to have in terms of just understanding how the processes are supposed to work and having everyone on the same page. We have a very clear internal controls policy now, which says exactly who authorizes what and to what amounts, and that's all being kind of followed in the systems. Same with things like treasurer spot checks. So this is a new practice for us. So Deepa, our treasurer, every quarter is doing random spot checks on our transactions just to make sure that everything is correct and the documentation is there and that kind of thing. I wanted to kind of recognize the people who have been involved in this work, and it's kind of a slightly, I suppose, odd mix of people who don't maybe interact all that much, but who are all in the background making sure the core functions of the organization have been working. Bart and Andrea are pretty active in that space. We have a lot of our own infrastructure. And all our processes and systems are heavily dependent on the work they do. So they're supporting us internally as well as supporting the wider community. Dawn is on here, as I previously mentioned. And then also the other members of the executive committee. We meet weekly to have a weekly kind of management call. And that's a very important part of how we function as an organization. I'd particularly like to thank a few people on this list. The first of those is Maria. Maria has been only on the board for a year, which is kind of unbelievable given the amounts of work that she does for us. Maria is not only chairing the board, but she's also, in large part, running the travel committee and the engagement team simultaneously. So please help Maria, but also please don't ask her to do any more, because I think she should not do anything else. The other person I'd like to thank is Rob McQueen. When I took over as president last August, I took over from Rob, and he's been the biggest single source of support that I've received during that time. When we had calls with new advisory board representatives, Rob would be there joining me on the call. When we had calls to pitch for a new grant, Rob was there on the call with me. Rob was the person who checked in regularly just to see how I was doing and see what needed to be done. And he's been one of the key people who's been involved in helping me through some difficult decisions and difficult things we've had to implement at the foundation. And I don't think I could have done it without him. So I think it's important to recognize the work that Rob's done over the past year. I'm personally deeply appreciative of everything he's done. All right, that's what's been happening in terms of the internal day-to-day work of the foundation. I'll talk about finances next, which I think is the bit that a lot of people are really interested in because you maybe don't always know what's going on here. And it is obviously very significant for us because, so much of what we do is dictated by the financial situation at the foundation, and certainly that's what I'm thinking about all the time as we're trying to plan ahead, just what's happening with the numbers. Ordinarily, this part of the presentation will be given by the treasurer, and we have a fantastic treasurer in the shape of Deepa. Deepa unfortunately can't be here due to work commitments, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to do this. Sorry for that. But Deepa's been really excellent. I think she's the best treasurer we've ever had. She does a lot of work on the background. We have an active finance committee which are receiving our monthly financials and reviewing them and arguing about finance policy and doing all those things, which is it's important work, and I'm very grateful for that. So before we jump into the numbers, just a couple of bits of background information to understand what's going on here. I already mentioned this, but our financial years run from October to September, and we refer to them by the calendar year in which the financial year ended. So we started 2026, FY26 in 2025. FY25 was October 24 to September 25. This is a terrible time of year for us to give a finance report. And we've always really struggled with this at GUADEC because we're kind of towards the end of our financial year now. And, the easiest thing for us to do would be to give you a finance report on the last complete financial year, but that's like 9 months ago, and people aren't really interested in that. It's kind of old history. So what we've done for this report is we've projected forward. So we're going to show projected numbers for where we think we're going to be at the end of September for the current financial year. So you're getting a complete financial year, except we haven't quite done it yet. That means that there is some room for error in all of this. But at this point in the financial year, we are reasonably confident about where we're going to end up. Some of the big items are fairly locked in at this point, so we can be reasonably confident. But just, don't be surprised if the numbers do change a little bit between this report and what happens with the final actuals. The other bit of kind of briefing information I want to share with you is this distinction between restricted and unrestricted funds. This is very common for non-profits to deal with this, and this is something that we deal with all the time at the GNOME Foundation. Unrestricted funds are the funds that we can spend freely. We can decide what to use those on. It's money with no strings attached. And that's generally what we're often interested in, because that's the money that we can direct to different programs. It's often the money that we use on some of our core functions, like our finance, our accounting, our sysadmin, all that kind of stuff. So that is very interesting and critical for us. But we do also need to be aware of the restricted funds that the GNOME Foundation handles. These are funds that we're not able to spend freely, and there can be different types of those. The first and most obvious one is program-specific grant funding. So when we receive a grant to work on digital well-being, we have to use that money for digital well-being. We can't spend it on something else. We also deal with grants that have time restrictions. So sometimes you'll get a grant that spans multiple years, and you can only use some of the money in 1 year and some of the money in another year. And the other kind of restricted funds that we often handle are those that we hold for other projects, for the fiscally sponsored projects. In the presentation that follows, I'm primarily going to be dealing with unrestricted funds, but I want to just recognize that a lot of the work that we are doing comes under the restricted category as well. So we handle a lot of grant funding, we handle lots of funding for other organizations, and those lead to programs that we're able to deliver. And it also leads to income that we're able to generate. So for example, when we receive income for our fiscally sponsored projects, we get some unrestricted funding from that. So there's a relationship there. And to understand the totality of what we're doing, you need to be aware of both. All right. Anyway, enough preamble. I hope you can see this all right. This, I suppose, is the big picture of the past 3 financial years, including the current one, which will end in September. And there's a story here, right? So we'll start with FY24. So this was the year that began in October 23 and ran to September 2024. And you'll see that we ran a significant deficit in that year. And that was largely off the back of fundraising plans that we had in place that year that didn't work out. And we had a lot of difficulties that year, generally at the foundation, and that's reflected on the balance sheet. That didn't work out well for us. And when we got to the end of that financial year, Richard Littauer was our interim executive director, and he recognized the situation, and had to reduce headcounts of the foundation, and this number is why. The next year, which is the year we most recently completed, which ended in September 2025, you'll see it was a much more positive year. We kind of turned things around pretty effectively and quite quickly after that year, which I think is a very positive kind of story for us, that we were able to turn things around so fast. And we generated quite a healthy surplus that year. That allowed us to replenish our reserves and get back to a healthier financial position. The issue there, I suppose, if there was an issue, was that a lot of that surplus was generated off the back of a couple of one-time financial events. There was that large donation we received, which led to quite a significant source of revenue in that year. We also received an unrestricted grant from Endless to help us through that tricky spot. So again, like, Endless Foundation came through for us when we really needed them. They are very valuable supporters for us. So it was a good year for us, but because those weren't regularized sources of revenue, we couldn't expect to receive them again in the next financial year. So we weren't looking at, when we went into the current financial year, we weren't able to bank on those things. So we again had to kind of change our shape a little bit. And that was one of the reasons why we had to reduce headcount again coming into this financial year. And as we look at this financial year, we'll see that again we're having a pretty good year. Like, as we've gone through, we have exceeded our projections. Like, in terms of fundraising, has gone better than we had originally projected. And we've actually managed to save some money in some areas as well, which has led to us, while we passed a budget that was largely balanced, the actuals are looking a lot better. We've outperformed our projection. And the positive thing here is that all of that revenue is based on recurring sources. So this is a sustainable shape, right? In terms of that $510,000 revenue is something that we can, we can't be completely confident about getting that next financial year, but we can be reasonably confident that we'll get something like that. The main issue here is that we've been very low on paid roles this year. I've been doing a lot of work on the foundation despite not being paid by the foundation. And so the question for us going forward is how to support the management functions of the organization within the finances that we have. And I think we're all feeling like the squeeze of this year now in terms of the responsibilities that the community has taken on to get us to this point. So looking at the revenue for this current financial year, there's a lot of positives here. The individual donations are up considerably compared to previous financial years, and are up from what we originally projected for the budget for this year. They're now our biggest source of income by a large proportion, and a lot of that is due to the work that Stephen did with donate.gnome.org last year, which really helped us very significantly and has contributed a lot to the financial health of the organization. That's been very positive for us. Our advisory board fees are still a very significant part of our income, particularly because they're regular and they're something that we historically have counted on. That is essential. you'll see that we're generating a lot of money in interest. This is a significant part of our income now, and in part this was due to the work that we did this year to improve our investment plan. So that is positive, but it's also a mixed bag because, you know, we're raising money from this, but everything is also costing more, and it's not something that we can easily bank on for next year because who knows what's going to happen with interest rates. Conference sponsorships, that's primarily GUADEC. That's our main source of sponsorships. That's down this year. We had a really good year last year. It was not so good this year. The sponsors that we do have are fantastic. We need to keep those. But I think that just the corporate contributions, there's definitely headwinds there. It's a difficult environment for us to raise funds from corporate sponsors at the moment. Speaking of corporate contributions, this line, last line, we call these corporate contributions, but it's not a good name for them really. This is things like employee matching schemes and smaller corporate giving funds. Like there are a lot of firms that have a kind of charitable wing that give smaller donations out on a regular basis, and we're registered with a lot of the platforms that they donate through, and all of those kind of add up quite considerably and a non-trivial part of our funding. So just to get an idea of what our individual donations look like, this is the chart that I've been working on over the past year. Well, not specifically this chart, but the data. So these are all the contributions that come in from individual donors. So it's donate.gnome.org, but it's also our legacy platforms where we have subscribers. People still have subscriptions in PayPal. People still have subscriptions in Commit Change. But this brings all that data together. And this tells a story, right? So this is June last year to May this year, and we had a kind of, Stephen had a soft launch of the Donate site, but you can see that once word got out about that, things picked up, and then things really accelerated up until Christmas and New Year and the traditional giving season, and we saw this big uptick, like the big line is Christmas, that's December, and then things drop off. But the significant thing here is that we picked up regular subscribers along the way, right? We picked up people who are donating a smaller amount each month, and that's going to carry us through. So that's very positive for us, but we need to do more work here. The subscriber count is pretty flat right now. If anything, it's starting to tail off. It's starting to decline very slowly. This is where we need to focus to get more funds into the foundation. We've increased our individual donations to, in excess of $200,000 a year through not doing a huge amount in many respects. I think there's massive growth potential here. I think we should be aiming to double our individual donations over the next year. I think that's entirely possible. Other projects do this. It's a proven method. This isn't rocket science. Like, if they can do it, we can do it. We ought to be doing it. And if we double this, then we're good. That will sustain the fellowship for future years. We'll be able to make the fellowship a permanent program. It will allow us to hire in some more help to help us run the foundation, and it will allow us to run extra programs to benefit the project. So this has to be our goal for the next year. This is really the key to everything. This is the only way that we achieve financial sustainability. It's the only way we reach sustainability for the organization. This is an overview of our current expenditure for the current year. And I put a warning flag on this because I don't like this at all. And it's very misleading. And I don't like putting it in front of people. But I felt that I needed to give some kind of report on how we're spending money, and this is the best I could come up with in the circumstances. So I'll run through this, but there's going to be a lot of me pointing out issues with the data and how you shouldn't believe everything you see here. So these are the main things that we've been spending on over the past year. You'll see the top line is finance and accounting, super misleading. This includes a lot of things. It includes the fee that we had to pay to the accounting firm to run our audit, for example. It also includes program-specific work. So when we set up the fellowship, we had to do a whole bunch of finance and accounting work to come up with fellowship agreements, come up with a kind of how we're going to manage the payments, all that kind of stuff. So and really those are fellowship costs, right? Those are program-specific costs. It's just that I wasn't able to split that money out. So it's all kind of come into this big lump of stuff, which impacts various different programs and things that we're doing across the organization. The other thing to note about this line and about all the lines is that it's not factoring in revenue-generating activity. So some of these items bring in money for the foundation, and that's not reflected here. So our finance and accounting operation brings in revenue in terms of fiscal sponsorship fees, in the way of interest, in that kind of sort of thing, which to me offsets that number. So hopefully in future iterations of this presentation, we'll have a more accurate reflection of the cost of the organization. But, you know, in real terms, that is what we spent. It's just that it's a bit more complicated than that. Next line is conferences, $82,000. That includes everything for the conferences. It includes venues, catering, travel for organizers, contractor time. That's the total cost of running 3 conferences a year. Employment cost is mostly wind-up costs. We don't have any employees anymore, but that was a relatively recent event, and we had a lot of kind of commitments still as an employer that we needed to finish up. And that's something that we've been working on quite a lot in the background over the past year, just to wrap all those things up, and that's involved some costs for us. So, but that is pretty much done now. So that 44,000 figure won't appear on next year's report. Operating expenses, that's primarily things like banking fees and payment processing fees. So that number being high is good because it's proportionate to the amount of donations that we're bringing in. We actually want that number to rise because it shows that we're receiving more donations. Sysadmin costs is pretty obvious. And then member travel, that's the budget that the travel committee has been managing. That committee had a budget of $40,000 this year. We were quite generous with that. We wanted to encourage community travel. And as Maria presented, the uptake was actually a lot lower than that. So we're significantly under budget. So we would encourage people to apply for those funds. They are available. This is how much money we have in the bank. I say this is how much money we have in the bank. It's not really the amount of money that we have in our bank because we also hold a lot of restricted funds as well. This is just the unrestricted part. So we divide our reserves into 2. We have a restricted reserve, which is this $225K. That's the emergency fund that we're not allowed to spend unless the board approves it. So that's like the emergency fund that the board controls. So the $315,000 is the kind of working capital that we have available to us as of May. This number has been increasing month on month because we are running a surplus, so it will be higher now than it was back in May. But the total amount of unrestricted funding that we have currently is a bit over $500,000. So I mentioned that we've been working on the budget for next year. And we're kind of busy planning that at the moment. We'll be approving that in September. So we've got a little way to go, but we've already got a bit of an outlook of what we're looking at for the next financial year, and this is the kind of thing that you'll be able to expect. So a lot of the efficiency improvements that we've been making are coming online now, and that's reflected in the budget for next year. So I think the shape of the budget is looking quite good. You know, we've kind of reconfigured things in a positive way towards programs and so on. The challenge that we have is that we've got some significant new costs coming in. Javier, I saw you yawn just then. Try and stay awake. We're nearly done. We have significant new costs coming in. The first of those is the fellowship, which is our biggest program by cost now, and the majority of the cost of that is going to land next financial year. The other new cost that we've got coming in is the finance director role, which is a new position that we're going to be funding. That's coming in. We've got some other increasing costs in other areas, which generally means that we're in a situation of financial pressure, I would describe. There's been wrangling on the finance committee about what's going to get funding and by how much. I would still say that we're in, relatively good shape compared to previous financial years. Things are heading in a good direction, but we're not out of the woods yet, and that's why I'm really reiterating the need to increase fundraising. Within all of those pressures, I don't want people here to think that the GNOME Foundation is broken or we don't have any money. We do have money. You just saw that on the last slide. And I would encourage people to come to us if they feel there are critical areas of the project where relatively small financial outlays can have a significant impact. If there's like a small tool that is broken, that is really kind of getting in the way of getting things done, and no one's fixing it, well, maybe that's something that we could pay someone to do on a one-time basis. Like, we have the funds to do that. Or if there's a community process that needs setting up that we really need to make things run smoother, and we could pay a contractor for a small period of time to get that work over the line, I think that's something that we could certainly consider. And I'd like to see us doing more of that. The funds are available. The funds are there to be used by the project to improve the project. It's difficult for us to commit to large, ongoing outlays. Like, as much as we would like to hire more maintainers, that's not something that we have the funds to do. But, relatively small, targeted work is definitely within our means, even despite the pressure. And, we welcome suggestions for that, and we'd love to hear people coming forward with those ideas. All right, nearly at the end now. So these are the main plans that we have over the next 12 months, I would say. Finance and Ops Director is going to be key for us just to relieve pressure on the management team and to provide us with a degree of resilience, as well as kind of bringing in finance and accounting expertise to the organization, which is something that we've been enjoying a lot with Dawn's contributions. Fundraising has to be the priority. That's really where the focus needs to be over the next 12 months. And then we're looking to program growth and alignment, right? Like, all of this work that we've been doing internally is designed to better support the externally facing work that we're doing. So now that we've spent a year doing that, we want to focus on outward-looking programs and on growth and developing our strategic priorities and making sure that we're spending money as effectively as we can. And I think that's what I hope will be the focus over the next 12 months. All right. Now it's time for Maria, as chair of the board, to give a governance report. You've had finance, you've had kind of the president report, and we're now going to cover the governance arrangements, which is another important part of what the foundation does.
So, here I am again. Oops. Yeah, I missed it. I was very impulsive. So an update first about the elections. We have 230 members, and during these elections, we're up to 5-6 seats with 8 candidates, and only 144 ballots were cast. So that's a 63% of our community members, foundation members voting. Current directors, Adrian Falk, Julian Sparber, Sri Ramkrishna, Deepa Venkatraman, sorry for my pronunciation, Jonathan Blanford, Arun Rangahab, Lawrence Wilber, myself, and Cassidy James. So welcome to the new board. And our departing directors are Alan Day, Federico Mena, Quintero, Robin McQueen, which we thank for the last couple of years' work, which is, I'm sure it was not easy to go through it. So a big clap for them. Well, full disclosure, right now these are the past year officers, which is President Alan Day, our Vice Presidents Arun and Robert, Treasurer Deepa, and our Secretary Federico. We have not yet elected the new officer positions that will happen in August. We are still onboarding the new board members, and so that will be decided after our first meeting in August. And the QA, yeah, and maybe.
Is this working? Yeah, okay. So it's time for the Q&A, which we traditionally have with the whole board. So we can have current directors, and I think Federico as an officer, you're welcome to come up, and I'll sit here in my capacity as president. We tried to do things a little bit differently this year. We've taken questions via a form, to allow different people to participate. And we've got those questions here that I think we're going to run through. Is there still time to submit questions as we talk, or are we done now? I can also ask searching questions for current directors if you want a challenge. Yeah. Cassidy, are you the quiz master?
Sorry, what?
Are you the quiz master?
Sure, I guess so.
Okay.
I guess I've been voluntold that I'm the quiz master for this.
Yeah.
Okay. We have had 6 questions asked by members in the last few hours, I guess a couple days. The first one is long-winded, so I'm going to summarize it a little bit. But basically it's asking, due to geopolitical trends, there's a lot of activity around digital sovereignty. Often including replacing big tech big tech products with open source solutions. And yet, despite GNOME being a really good fit for this, it's often left out from these sort of grants and proposals. Are there plans to fix this? Does anybody want to start take this?
I can answer.
Oh,
I think the answer is yes. Yeah, I mean, I think we do have a lot of development work still to do around fundraising and making ourselves attracted to different sorts of funding. We've got a lot of work to do on our website and how we present our programs in a way that makes them relevant to funders. Certainly, we obviously do have people in the community that are already doing this for GNOME through EU funding, and that's something that we want to encourage and support. But I think it's also something that we can be doing ourselves as well, potentially. With EU funds, sometimes limitations on what we can do as an American organization, but there are things we can do as well. So I would put that under the large bucket of fundraising work that we need to do over the next year. Yeah. No. Does anyone else want to speak to that?
I think that's probably, yeah, I think that covers it. Yeah, I want to, I guess, emphasize that like we have seen success with individuals applying for things like specific grants to or programs to work on specific areas of GNOME, and that's something that's a way that we can get around some of that. Like the GNOME Foundation itself as a U.S. organization is not being funded directly, but it still is benefiting the project, which is helpful. Another question that was asked is, what are the plans for bringing paid apps to FlatHub? It's actually kind of two different questions. Do you believe there will be a need to set up more formal user and developer support channels since money will be going around now? And I guess I can start by saying, like, we talked a little bit about this briefly, but the sort of progress update there is that code-wise, payment support is basically ready and has been for a little while, but the next steps are the important but kind of boring, like, governance and legal ones that are currently underway that we talked about. But yeah, we're helping bootstrap it from the GNOME Foundation side, but also it's something that ultimately, like, that new governance of the FlatHub project will have to take on as they see fit. I don't know if anybody has other insights or thoughts.
I think just that, this is something we've wanted to do for a long time, and progress has been slower than we would like, but I think there has been an uptick in activity over the past month or two. So I'm kind of hopeful there, and it's something that the board actually discussed at its last meeting and made some positive steps towards. We're very excited about this. We think there's a huge amount of potential around FlatHub, and it's very mission aligned with what we want to be doing at the GNOME Foundation, so we just want to support that the best we can. It's just been a little bit challenging putting all the pieces together, but hopefully things are moving in the right direction now.
The next question we got is, now that the foundation has new leadership, I think, new directors on the board, what changes can we expect to see to mend and rebuild the relationship between the foundation and the community? I do want to caveat this. Maria and I were talking earlier that, like, it's a little hard because we just mentioned that, like, new directors haven't been fully onboarded, haven't been appointed to roles and things, so it's not like we can definitively say, like, this is what's changing right now. But with that context, I think if we want to discuss.
Yeah, as mentioned before, the officers are not yet decided. And obviously, the new directors are trying to get themselves updated about all the things that we are discussing, and at the moment they cannot make decisions yet, I guess. So plans, we cannot say anything. What we were discussing also is, we as a director, we as a foundation, we are also part of the community. We are elected by you. We are in the same rooms that you are. So please feel free anytime that you have a question, you have an idea, to ping us, DM. You can use anytime the issue tracker for the board to open any issue that you would like to propose. I have been through the year every time, like, encourage people to feel free to open issues there of things that you would like to propose or that you would like to have the board discuss. We are part of the community too, so please treat us as more as a line towards the means, towards make things happen, instead of the opposite side. Because we are elected by you. We have been community for some time now. It's not like you guys don't know where we are. We perfectly do know. So yes, I think that is something that we would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just look around at what we've been doing for the past year. I mean, come on. Like, we've launched the fellowship program. We've been completely transparent about everything we've been doing. I was writing weekly blog posts. So everyone knew what was happening. We've just given the most detailed financial report that we ever have. we are working hard at this, and we have been for some time. So, give us a little bit of credit for what we've been putting in. And, I would completely agree with Maria. We're members of the community, and I think it's frustrating often to be put in the position of somehow serving the community and expectations being put in for things that people feel that we ought to be doing when we're working as hard as we can to do the best that we can at this. And a lot of the frustration that we receive and the distrust we feel from the community, personally speaking, is one of the things that makes this role the hardest. And as we've seen recently, and it takes a lot of toll on a lot of the people that are working into this. So I would, rather than asking what can the foundation do to rebuild community trust, I would flip it around and I would challenge the community to work with us and to trust us a little bit more.
Yeah, I think Alan covered it pretty well. Yeah, next question that was asked, I'm also refreshing the forums in case anybody's asking any more questions live. Next question that was asked is it time to migrate from GitLab to, I don't know how to pronounce Esperanto words, but Forjejo or something, ForgeJo, I don't know. And I would say, first of all, no, it's not currently planned. Second of all, that's not the board's decision. And third of all, it would be really disruptive and a big change. But I guess with the FlatHub moving to it, like there maybe is some precedent with some of our infrastructure team having knowledge, but like not really the board's purview, I don't think there. Anything else to answer there? Okay. It was asked, so I wanted to answer it. Next question was, are there plans for another program similar to the Digital Wellbeing Grant? It's a good question.
I mentioned already that we're hoping to get some more funds for digital wellbeing, and I think there are potentially other sources of funding for similar work, and I know that there have been some applications for that already. I'd love to develop more technical programs that we can pitch to organizations for funds. I think digital wellbeing is a pretty good example of how we can do that, and we delivered on that very successfully. So if people do think that there are potential programs that we could set up to pitch to funders, I think that'd be fantastic. And that's something, I've got tickets open in the board tracker about exactly this. We just need the ideas and the time and resources to structure the whole thing, but I think that would be great. Anyone else?
Some of this is happening at the contributor level. Like we have had some of the people in the accessibility team or people who have worked on the accessibility components request that we make up a more focused list of things to work on related to accessibility so that they can see how much funding would be required for that. So that's ongoing. The next part is, well, doing some technical work on the new protocol, auditing applications, things like that. So that's ongoing. There's no like formal plan for doing an accessibility program, but things like that can start at any time by members who get ideas, basically.
Okay. And last, we have a question. I think this is the last one, unless anybody sent one in. Refreshing. No. Huh? Oh, that was the last question. No, the one that you are going to. Yes. Sorry, yes. I was refreshing to see if there were any more, but we're out of time, is what you're saying. Or we will be that. Okay, great. We have one more question. How's it going with hiring an executive director, is the question. I don't know.
I think I should speak to that. Yeah. I probably should have put that in the slides now that I think about it. Because it is the question that everyone always asks. You know, the board has discussed this a number of times in recent years. I think one of the challenges that we have around executive directors is just finding people who can do all the things that we need doing for the amount of money that we can offer. Like, we're a small organization. Really good executive directors are very expensive. And in the past, we've hired executive directors without necessarily having the funds to pay for them, and their first job has been to raise their own salary, which I don't think is a very, it's definitely a very high pressure situation for a new ED to find themselves in. What we're doing right now is we're trying to kind of disaggregate the role a little bit, and I think we're interested in, rather than having one person with all the responsibility for leading every aspect of the organization, splitting those responsibilities between different people, perhaps who are able to bring a diversity of skill sets. And that allows us to then build the role a little bit more piecemeal and in line with our financial capabilities. So the finance and operations director role that we're currently recruiting for, that is a director level position. That's a high level leadership position. It's not a manager position, it's a director, or they will be a director. And that is essentially a big chunk of executive director responsibility that one person will be responsible for already. They're going to be responsible for running the business side of the organization. So we've kind of taken a big chunk out of the ED job specification with that role. And that is within budget, that is within means, we can do that. And then maybe further down the line, when we've increased our fundraising, hopefully, and we've got more capacity, maybe we can bring in 1-2 other people to do other parts of the role. Maybe it's more of a community manager type position. Maybe it's more of a kind of advocacy, public spokesman kind of position, or spokesperson, sorry. So it allows us to evolve in line with our means and in line with, you know, our evolving needs as we identify them. And I like that approach. So it's an unfolding story, and I think the board's going to be checking in on that and discussing that as we make progress. But we're moving in a positive direction. Even if we don't have someone whose title is executive director, those functions are being taken care of, and we have a kind of loose hiring plan in place for that, I would say. Any more questions?
Yeah, there was one more that was submitted moments ago. Sure, I will read the question. I have to find it. Where to go? More and more companies are using FLOSS, free and open source software, especially GNOME as their primary desktop environment, as it's the default on many OSs. How can we have these companies that are using it contribute more in our finances? There are corporate donations in donate.gnome.org, but how can we communicate especially with corporations?
So yes, we have a section for corporate donors. We are working now about what we can deliver in exchange of those donations, in the sense of, obviously, they would like to have maybe their logo on our website. So we are working right now on that. I will encourage anyone here. Again, we as a community, and I mentioned it shortly in engagement this morning, on your blogs, it will be nice if you could put a line like, hey, you can donate. Also, if you know companies who will be interested to become as a corporate donor to donate to GNOME, either encourage them or let us know so we can contact them and maybe tell them, it's so nice, we are so nice, we are doing wonderful work here. Can you give us money to do more? Because that's what we want to do. So yes, we are in the conversation of doing some plan with that section, working on it. Hopefully next year we can say we have 10 corporate donors, like wish list, let's put it.
That is the last one. So thank you, everybody, for sending in questions, and we can chat more. Like we've said a couple of times, we're part of the community. Let's chat more over lunch, and you can always reach out and talk to directors.
Unfortunately, no more time for questions, just 2 quick announcements, but yeah, I'll let you finish whatever you were saying.
Oh, I think that's good. Yeah, let's talk over lunch.